I've talked to literally thousands of people. You have to get over 4,000 hours to become a licensed therapist. So you literally talk to thousands of people, and everybody feels like they're right.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So what do you do with that? Well,
Kick them out. Ain't got time for your bull crap right now. You know for a fact you ain't right about what you're saying.
says
Nobody got
who?
time for that.
But see,
Says who? Who says?
Because how do you know if you haven't been programmed wrong information, misinformation? Like, how do you know you haven't been Because I've had that situation before too, where I've dealt with people and I'm like, what taught you that?
hmm,
Like, where did you
that's fair.
learn that?
Yeah,
And of course, I think I'm right because I'm thinking the information that I was taught was right. But guess what? I learned that a lot of the information that I was taught was
It's not
wrong.
right.
but
Mm-hmm.
in that what you're saying, yes, but at the same time, like you said, everybody thinks they're right, and yes, because how many of us are actually open to hear what other people got to say? Like a lot of people think because you're having a conversation, you have to agree with one another, or you have to agree with the one who is primarily talking. When and on top of and that being said, those same people probably think that a disagreement means that you don't understand.
Right.
Just because I disagree, that don't mean I don't understand. I just don't agree
I
with
just,
it.
just I just don't agree with your opinion or your point of view or your
Exactly.
perspective.
Because different people see things differently,
Yeah.
as you stated before.
That's what I mean by people are not open to hear, to have their mind change, or to even just think, period. Like you're not necessarily hearing to have your mind change. I feel like you should be hearing to just think a little bit.
Right.
Like
Well,
cause oh, go ahead.
I was just gonna say, it's one thing to hear, and it's another thing to be indoctrinated. Because
Mm.
one thing I'm teaching my son now, who is about to go off to college next year, is don't get caught up in the cult.
Okay.
Don't get
Exactly.
caught up in the
Exactly.
cult, because you'll
Don't
fool
be doing what
around.
BG doing, talking to white people. You
Well,
know,
I mean, I'll say, being able to sit with contradictions without it changing your moral compass.
Right.
exactly,
And because
exactly.
ultimately, while we all do think we're right, you do have masses and groups of people that will agree with you. Just like you've got masses of Muslims, you've got masses of Christians and Buddhist principles. You have masses that do agree. And I always lean on the side of, does it provide respect, and does it provide love? Does it provide respect, and does it provide love? Because no, we're not going to agree. When I was practicing therapy, you come across a lot of people, and I've come across people that did believe that it was okay to sex traffic.
Mm.
Now,
They thought it was okay.
oh yeah, oh yeah,
And
oh
how did they
yeah.
justify that? I'm sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt,
No,
but I'm just curious as to how did they justify that
well,
was okay?
the thought is that they are a free will.
Mm.
I provide a support. So they're making a
Oh,
decision. You can make a decision. It's all about, I make nobody do nothing, but if they do come on this side of the tracks, this is what it is.
That's their choice.
It's their
and you know what
choice.
you know what I feel about that? I feel like those people actually do know what they're saying is BS. That's what I feel about those people. This is what I say that because what you just said is they have it in their head that you have free will. You make the choice. And by your choosing to
If
be
you're
trafficked right
trafficking
now,
somebody, nobody
you're
is choosing to be trafficked.
but yeah, that's what I'm getting at. You believe that the person is making the choice to traffic because you want to put the narrative. Like, before I say, people just tell themselves anything to make them believe, to give themselves justification to do what it is.
That's
We
why I
are we
asked it. I was like, what did they come
we
with?
all
What was the
believe
justification?
we can all believe our own lies. Trust me. I've
Yes,
heard folks.
exactly. Yes.
I've heard some really very interesting takes on why people continue to do what they do, regardless of the negative consequences. There's always a way in which we can turn the story. But I say all that to say that, you know,
Yeah, I did cut you off.
how do you provide care to the worst of people?
You kick them out. Like
You
I said.
don't. You don't. You don't because
No,
at
no,
the
you
end
don't
of
kick
the
them out. You don't
you
kick them out.
don't because at the end
Yeah.
of the day they are still human beings who, if not taken care of or treated in some way, shape, or form, they still gonna go out there and do harm.
True.
Of course, but at this time, somebody got to play this character called God. I'm like, you know what? We can't have you living no more. You know,
But that ain't for me to decide. That ain't for me to decide. I'm not the
it
judge,
is
jury,
if
and
you can get away
executioner.
with it. It is if you can get away with it. You see what I just did? I just did this whole
So
trafficking
Dr.
thing.
King,
You know,
why did you so Dr. King, why did you leave that profession?
Because it's hard.
Oh, I can imagine.
It's hard. You know, when
Even
you're
I
hit.
talked to my therapist and I told him, I said, how do you take in everybody's issues and not internalize it?
Because he's got a good therapist.
did you have your own therapist?
Because he has a good
Did
therapist.
you
Yeah. And I
did
asked
you
him
have
that.
a
I said,
therapist, Adrian?
Oh yeah, they always told us in school a therapist has a therapist. So I've been
Always, always.
I've been to therapy with my children. I went to therapy with my ex-husband. I went to therapy for myself. I went to I got my mom in therapy, my grandma in baby. I talk about therapy, but I left it because after a while, the trauma, what it that's why I think, and I was becoming desensitized because
Ooh, yes.
what people do to people does not surprise me anymore.
oh,
and
wow.
and you start to take on the real emotional pain of people suffering. I mean,
Yeah.
I've heard some cases where it's just like, your dad did what?
Yeah.
You were shot how many times? And it's just like you hear that story after story, and the trauma within our community, you
It's
know,
horrible.
it's horrific. And not to say white folks don't have trauma, but they don't
Right.
emphasize the trauma that they have as much as we emphasize the trauma that we have. Because I've treated white folks too, and they go through the same thing that we go through. It's just
Mm-hmm.
under the mic. It's under. They
Mm-hmm.
hide it.
They keep it undercover.
Yep.
They keep it undercover. They minimize it, but ours just, so that's why I retired. And now I do retreats because now I realize the importance of rest and detaching just briefly from that trauma and allowing people to nurture you back to health. Because your nervous system is only supposed to take so much trauma at a time. And that
Mm-hmm.
complex trauma that we experience just doesn't give us a break, which is why we have high blood pressure and diabetes and early deaths and colon cancer. So I've dedicated myself to creating spaces for us to really get away and nurture us back to help with a team of people.
And verifiably, I can say that in the years of therapy, rehab that I endured, one of the things, and I tell my wife, she says, "How can you see this and it not affect you? How can you not react or respond?" And my comment to her is, it took me 3 years. I had to literally, this is before I met her, but I had to literally pull away from everything and everybody. The only time I left my house was to go to church, and my godfather's mother was in a nursing home, in fact, the same nursing home where I was, and I would go see her once a week. But other than that, I did not leave my house. And for 3 years, I literally took me apart. I changed all the things I couldn't change. I mean, all the things I could change, I changed, and all those things I couldn't, I had to come to terms with those. That is the reason why, to this day, short of putting your hands on me or mine, you can't you can't get a rise out of me.
Mhm.
Exactly.
Oh yeah,
Exactly.
I had to program myself to no longer let people affect my emotions. Like that was definitely one of the things when I started whatever it was called, a journey I called, as far as reprogramming my brain was, and my husband's really, really good at that, is not letting people pay rent in my head.
Mm-mm.
This, you
Mm.
can't get a rise out of me. There's nothing that you can do.
Nope.
I don't take anything personal from anybody. What you do is on you. And I noticed that people hurt people, especially narcissistic people that I've come across, they feed off of that.
Short of putting your hands on me or hitting me with a chair.
I was
I,
about to go there. It's like that chair probably get not some emotion inside.
but it's like you almost have to detach.
Yes.
I'm oftentimes when people have interesting conversations, I have learned to detach from myself. So it's like I'm standing here and this person is attacking me. And in order for me to keep from snapping, as you said, coach, in order to keep from snapping, I remove me from myself and I stand over here. And I'm oftentimes it's literally like I'm just standing there watching this scene play out.
Yeah.
Exactly. And that's how that's with me as well. Like outside of my household, I don't bother with nothing. Like if it's not in the environment where I lay my head on, it ain't bothering me. And even inside my where I lay my head down, it's controlled to a degree.
Well,
Like
consider something. Consider something. If I know what to do to make you happy or make you sad, to pick you up or bring you down, I control your emotions. If I control your emotions, I control everything about you.
Mhm.
Absolutely.
Mhm.
And I
Mhm.
refuse for anybody to have that type of control over me.
Mhm.
Can't
Mhm.
exactly,
allow
exactly. But getting hit with the chair will
it.
that right there.
I
No,
agree. I agree.
I just had to bring that up one more time. I just had to bring it up one more time.
Yeah, I got hit with I got bit. I got bit, had a
What?
big old bite mark on my arm. Yeah, yeah.
And you were a teacher?
I wasn't a teacher. I was like more like a paraeducator. I was thinking about going and getting my master's to teach
Mm.
because I love coaching. Um,
Sounded more like a
but then
zookeeper.
once those happened, I was like, nah, this ain't this not for me.
Yeah. So
Yeah.
you
I
got
was
It's
you
I,
got to do it.
I was gonna end up
Go
in
ahead. I'm
jail.
sorry.
So
Yeah, yeah.
yeah.
You
it's
got to do what makes
tough.
you happy. Do what makes you happy. You was about to say something, Asia.
I was going to say before I go, it was a pleasure talking to everybody. And is it okay if I kind of do a little bit of a plug real quick, Donnie?
Go ahead and you was one. I'm glad you didn't say shame this time. Good. Yes, you can do a plug.
All right,
Yes.
cool beans, cool beans. So, yes, I am hosting a couples retreat. As you all know, I have dedicated myself to taking my folks out and really treating them and nursing them back to health. So, I have a couples retreat coming up June 20th through the 24th in Hillman, Minnesota. I posted my information in the chat and I'll also send it to Donnie. So, whoever is part of his
Thank
audience,
you.
you can check it out. You can follow me on Instagram let me check this out, and TikTok. So on TikTok, you can find me at, I'm so bad at this, y'all, because I'm still trying to get my, but on Instagram, you can find me at Brave Defiance Healing. And that's the same name on Instagram as well, Brave Defiance Healing. So, come check me out. I've got a lot of meditation videos, a lot of advice videos on, being an entrepreneur and relationships. But my biggest thing is making sure that I take my people away and create them and expose them to something different. Next year, December 20th through January 1st, we're going to Costa Rica for the singles. So I'm really getting this up and going, trying to make sure that we do something different, because your soul is Your soul is your moral compass and how you view the world and how you experience it and react to it. And I just truly believe that when you are able to see something outside yourself and experience it with other beautiful people,